And we are back here for the off-season. First thing you can see here in the mail and news is that Kodai Senga has indeed executed his option, so he will be back for another season at $28.5 million, which is fine. We would not have given him that player option if we did not want him back for a second season. Brennan Woodruff also did indeed accept his option like I thought. I doubt he's going to start for us next season. I'm thinking we're probably going to try to turn him into a reliever next year and see what we can do about replacing him in the rotation in the offseason here. But I don't think Woodruff is going to be a starter for us. I just don't think this profile is going to play in the rotation anymore. And if you're wondering why he is in AAA Salt Lake right now, it is because he ended the year on a rehab assignment, so we just have to put him back on the big league roster, which we will do soon here. Artie Moreno has given us a budget of $300 million. That is good to see. Unfortunately, our team trainer, Rick Jamieson, has retired, and then so has our bench coach, which is not that big of a deal, but the trainer is definitely a big deal. We are going to have to replace him. Also, one thing I should mention is the past couple seasons, I have been going to this page and being like, I don't understand. How am I over budget? I would go to this page and it would be like, I would have this up to 20, this up to 15, and it would be like, oh, you're over budget, even though I would go to this page and it would just be like, well, this number is higher than this number, so what's the deal here? And I would have green numbers here, and I would just be like, what's going on? Well, apparently that was a bug. That was a bug in the game. As I'm recording this, it is the day after Memorial Day. On Memorial Day, they released a patch, and in the patch notes, it says that was a bug. There was a bug where it would incorrectly display that it was going to slash your budget because you were over. It was going to slash your player development and scouting because you were over budget. Apparently that was a bug. I did not know that. So anybody who is watching this, those episodes, which is going to be those episodes are going to be released well after that patch comes out. And then this episode is even more after that patch comes out. People are probably screaming at the screen, Jersey, it was a bug. I know that now. I did not know that at the time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Alrighty, so here are the 8 development lab players that we are going to be focusing on for this offseason. First up is Amari Collar. He was our first round pick this previous draft, 79th ranked prospect right now. You can see here, he dominated in 7 starts in A-ball, and then we brought him up to high A, and he struggled quite a bit. But these ratings look like he could be an absolute stud for us, and I want to try to ensure this control really ticks up, maybe even possibly get it into the 70s with a potential with the boost here. He does have the high work ethic, so that probably helps out in the development lab here. We're trying to get this control up to at least 45 here this offseason, and potentially maybe even get a tick up in the potential up to 70. Then we are going to be working on Sadid Matthews, trying to get into some more of this power potential. This season, he did drop his power potential a little bit, so I'm just basically trying to ensure that he gets that 50 power and possibly maybe even taps back into that potential 55, because Sadid Matthews, we want him to be good. He was good when he was healthy for us in AA last year. You can see here 3.5 WAR, 141 WRC plus, 20 home runs, 19 doubles, 991 OPS. And if we take a look at his history here, you can see he actually I don't think it says it here. Is it news? Yes. He had a 30-game hit streak going in AA that was ended in late August. So he was really tearing the cover off the ball in AA for us last season. Good to see there. Juan Padilla is an interesting prospect. We're trying to tap into this power. We want this power. We want it. We need it. He's got the good contact. More void K than BABIP, which is not great. But if we can tap into this power, I think that is something that we definitely need to be doing with him. Honestly, now that I'm looking at it, yeah, I could go for gap power and try to turn him into like a big doubles guy, but he doesn't really have the speed to utilize that, so I think we're better off going power. I could go I, but I think power. It's really power is what we need to focus on with him. So Padilla's in it for power. Jackson Peavy, remember him? He was a 2025 second rounder out of high school, and he's had some interesting years where he if we take a look at his full stats here, rookie ball, he just, didn't do well. He did well, then he did well again, but he wasn't really improving. So I was kind of hesitant to move him up to A ball, and then we did, and he barely played. Was that because he was hurt, or was that just because he wasn't really any good? Okay, so 2028, he tore his UCL. He ruptured his UCL. So he missed 2028. And then 2029, he comes back, and he has a phenomenal season in A-ball at age 22. Now, obviously, a bit old for A-ball, but that's what you want to see. You want to see him dominate at a level. He is now looking like he could be a decent reliever for us in the future. You can see here, looking pretty decent. And we are trying to tap into his control and get that up to 50. Honestly, now that I'm looking at that, even if he taps into if he taps into and just gets it to 45, that doesn't really do too much to help him, I don't feel like. So maybe we could try to, improve his off-speed or maybe improve velocity. No, I think we're going to keep control. We're going to keep control on Jackson Peavy. He's probably going to be in Double-A to start next season, and we'll see where he goes from there. I doubt he's a starter with this profile, but he could be an interesting relief player for us. We didn't draft Jackson Peavy to be a relief guy, but that's looking like what he's going to be for us. And it is encouraging to see that he had this great season, which was also good enough to win the California League Outstanding Pitcher Award, which is great. William Schmidt, remember him? First round pick in 2024. He was in Double-A last year after just a bunch of just dreadful negative WARs, just bad ERA pluses. Still wasn't great in Double-A. He was okay. He was serviceable, you should say. Serviceable, but he struck out a bunch of guys, didn't walk a bunch of guys, gives up way too many home runs, though. We need to work on this home run suppression, which isn't even ever looking like it's going to be good. I guess maybe I could try to increase his movement, but if I try to increase his movement, is that even going to go to home runs allowed? I was mainly trying to tap into the control here. If he could get up to this 55 control, obviously it's not going to happen in one off season. But, William Schmidt, if we can get this control in order, the home run suppression, we could possibly overlook a little bit. And I doubt he's going to be a starter for us, but he could be an interesting reliever. Same with Peavy. Obviously we did not take him 8th overall, looking to him to be a reliever, but he is trending that way to where if this keeps developing, he could be an interesting relief guy for us. And then also Eric Rose, who came up at the end of last season. He was our 16th round pick in 2027. We are trying to improve his pitch arsenal, which is basically trying to improve, or honestly, now that I'm looking at that, I'm pretty sure that improved pitch arsenal is just off-speed pitches. Yes, one of their bad off-speed pitches. So, that's Chris Sands. Eric Rose, his bad pitch is a sinker. That's not an off-speed pitch. At least I don't think the game counts as an off-speed pitch. That's a fastball, essentially. So he doesn't really have an off-speed pitch. He's got a fastball, sinker, cutter. So I feel like if I throw on the improved pitch arsenal to improve one of his bad off-speed pitches, is that just going to default to whatever his worst pitch is? Because that was the idea. The idea was here to try to get this sinker up into the green with everything else. But now that I'm looking at this, I might instead just try to kind of... Because that was basically the thing, is he has the 35 stamina. If we can get this sinker up to 50, maybe he could be like an interesting starting option even. But now that I'm seeing it's 3 like fastball-ish pitches... he's like, I guess, Lance Lynn does that. Lance Lynn's got all the different fastballs. But anyways, I think I should be leaning more control and just try to turn him into like a super control guy in our bullpen, along with all this other green that's going on. Or we could try to improve his velocity, tick his velocity up, get that fastball up. I think we might go velo. We might go velo on Eric Rose. He doesn't have the high work ethic. The control, obviously, is a little bit easier to develop, but I think we're going to swing big here, and we're going to try to tick up Eric Rose's velocity. So he goes back to the bottom, but Chris Sands here, he is coming off his torn flexor tendon, I believe. Yes, coming off just a devastating torn flexor tendon injury. Missed all of 2029. We thought he was going to be a guy who was compete for a spot for us in 2029 in the big leagues. Did not work out. He's probably going to repeat Double A here, see what he can do, because I don't want to throw him to the Wolves and Triple A and just have him get destroyed down there. But we are once again trying to tap into control with one of our pitchers here because he has the 60 control potential, and we want that. So Chris Sands, never going to be the blow you away with the stuff guy. He's got 92 to 94. He's a ground ball, super control guy. We want to lock into that, so we're doing the control. And then George Lombard Jr. here, we're throwing him in the lab, trying to get this power potential maxed out. We want that 60 power. He hit 21 bombs for us this season, 27 doubles, which obviously is the gap power. But if we can get 60 power to go along with this defense, he suddenly becomes much more of kind of like a secondary piece and much more into like he could be a decent, he could be like a legit dude in our order. As opposed to being like a Jordan Westberg or like an Ian Happ type to throw it back to some of our other teams is basically how I'm looking at him right now. But if we can get this 60 power, suddenly, with all this other green, he's looking like a much better player. He's already a good player, but 60 power is obviously a whole step above. So yeah, we're trying to get that power tapped into, and then obviously there's Eric Rose. So those are the 8 guys we are going for the development lab here. We have now reached the point of the year where the awards have all been given out. So just a quick little run through these. The National League MVP was Jackson Chourio. Mason Wynn finished second, and then Vladdy was third. The American League, Julio Rodriguez once again putting up an 8-WAR season with the Seattle Mariners. Incredible. We take a look at the Cy Young winner in the National League, and it was indeed this insane guy on the Cardinals, Andres Zamora, the Bat Destroyer. Then we go to the American League. It was Grayson Rodriguez, and Zach Gallen finished second. Bummer we couldn't get it, but Grayson Rodriguez, you could have easily given it to Gallen. I feel like, but they went G-Rod. Gallen finishes second. And then we take a look at the manager of the year was St. Louis's manager, Red Sox manager in the American League. The best rookie in the NL was Jeff Hess. Interesting that Zamora won the Cy Young, but not the Rookie of the Year. Cardinals also have another guy. Jesus Christ. I mean, holy. Yeah. Okay. The Cardinals are just going to be really good for a long time. But Jeff Hess with the Rockies picking up Rookie of the Year here. He was their first-round pick in 2027 and came up, hit 30 doubles, 27 home runs, and, tore the cover off the ball in Coors. So he wins Rookie of the Year. The American League is J.P. Jones, that guy from the Red Sox we saw from the World Series winner. We take a look at the Silver Sluggers in the National League. Tommy Troy, former Stanford man, with the D-backs is on here. Mason Wynn at shortstop. James Wood, Chourio, Acuna, Ohtani. Not too many standout names, other than names you would expect on there is what I'm saying. American League, Basayo, Shanuel on there once again. Another just great season for him. Not quite 40 home runs, but he hit 38, so it's basically 40 home runs. J.P. Jones, Royce Lewis, Gunnar Henderson, Charlie Condens in Toronto, because Cleveland traded him the immediate offseason after. They took him. Julio, Andres Carrasco of the Mariners, a first-round pick out of, I guess he was a supplemental round out of LSU in 2028, and he's already up in the big leagues, already winning Rookie there, makes the jump from high A straight to the big leagues, puts up a 4-WAR season, got a bunch of blue here. This guy is my type of player. Sucks that he's in our division. And then Juan Soto was the DH for the Silver Slugger. The reliever of the year was Sam Hentges of the Philadelphia Phillies. The American League reliever was Josh Hader of the New York Yankees. Yankees had a couple of guys on here because they also have our former closer, Yohan Duran. And then the Gold Glovers in the National League, Salas, Riley, Fabian Lopez. Marlins just all over the place. They got this guy. They got the third baseman, Angel Martinez, who put up a 8 CR at third base. Mason Wynn at shortstop. I feel like it probably should have been the Marlins guy because he led the entire league in ZR. Probably should be the Marlins guy there, but they gave it to Mason Wynn. Jung-Hoo Lee in left, Michael Harris, and Elijah Green in right. The American League, you got Garrett Cole, Patrick Bailey on the Tigers, Daniel Cuvée, who was the Miami guy I was talking about, Jackson Holiday, Kobe Mayo, Ty Pete, Khalil Lee, Vance Honeycutt, and Cody Bellinger. Alrighty, as you can see, we are here on opening day. I did quite a lot this offseason, as you might be able to tell by this screen you're looking at here. We have a lot to catch you up on, so let's just hop straight into it. First things first, as you can see here, we are now a member of the Pacific Division. If you remember from my Royals little thing I showed at the start of one of the offseason videos, I said that I've realigned the league. So it's 4 divisions, 2 in each league. The AL and NL is still a thing, but it's all geographical now. So you have the Metro Division, which is all the Northeast teams, plus Montreal is now an expansion team. We will get into the expansion teams here in a little bit. The Pacific Division is the other AL division. That's us, and then all the West Coast teams in Colorado. The Great Lakes, God's division, you could call it. It is Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, Minnesota, Toronto. It's just gray skies in August, baby. It's the platonic ideal, as you could say. But then we move things on to the Southern Division, and we have all the Southern teams here, as well as the expansion Raleigh Oaks. I thought that was an interesting team to do. With my Royals, I did the Nashville Stars because I feel like Nashville's probably one of the higher up teams to get a team. And with how I align this, you kind of need the expansion teams to be in the Metro and the Southern. And I just didn't really want to do Nashville again. So I was like, let's do a Raleigh team here. So the Raleigh Oaks, I believe they're like the city of Oaks, is the backstory behind that. So yeah, that's the team he picked there. And just quickly, we'll hop into what the expansion teams look like. So the Expos, or actually first I should go into my shortlist here. I made a shortlist of all the players we lost in the expansion draft. So I had the settings set to all players are protected who have 3 or less years of service time in pro ball. So like not professional, not like MLB service time, but if they have 3 or less years in pro ball, so like minor leagues even, they are auto protected, and then you had the ability to you had to choose 22 players outside of that criteria if you wanted to keep them. The default was like 25 because it's 1 lower than the 26 man, but I feel like that makes it way too hard on the expansion teams. So we did 22. I've seen some people do 20. We did 22. I feel like that was a decent number to pick. So we left a decent amount of relievers and guys unprotected. As you can see here, we lost 3 guys or basically all our guys to Montreal. Montreal has a bunch of our players. Hayden Birdsong is now in Montreal. Fulton Lockhart, who we picked up from a trade at last year's deadline. He was in the Parker Meadows trade to Kansas City. He's now in Montreal. Connor Phillips is now in Montreal. David Calabrese is in Montreal, but he is in their AAA team, the Laval Rocket, which is the AHL team for the Montreal Expos. I thought that would be an interesting AAA team to have for them. And then William Schmidt, our former first-round pick in the first season of this sim, might actually get into the big leagues at some point because right now he is listed as a starter for the AAA team here in Montreal. So those are the players we lost here, but let's go take a look just quickly at each expansion team's roster. You can see here, we go to their lineups. Decent bit here. They've got like Enrique Bradfield Jr. in center, Blaze Alexander, Bo Bichette's on this team. They got Tommy White hitting tanks out here in Montreal. He has been a very disappointing player. You can see here he's done like nothing in his time in the big leagues. Christopher Morel's on this team. Creed Willems, former Pirates, I believe Pirates prospect. I think that's no Orioles prospect. Okay, I'm thinking of somebody else in the Pirates, but anyways, that's their lineup here. The pitching, they got Birdsong and Lockhart in the rotation. They got Ben Brown, the current Cub, Jaden Hills in there. Connor Phillips, like we said, Ricky Vanasco is their closer. Slade Cacconi, shout out to the D-back sim I had going for a little bit. And then if we take a look at the Raleigh Oaks here, we don't have any players of ours on this team, but they also have an interesting bit here. Cal Raleigh. So they got Raleigh in Raleigh. I didn't even know that. But that's great. That's perfect. Cal Raleigh here, playing for the Raleigh Oaks. I also need to make this a little bit bigger. This is just a custom logo I made just to whip something up real quick. But yeah, Cal Raleigh is their backup catcher. They've got Andy Rodriguez, Jordan Westberg, former Angel. What has he done since he's left? He went to the Cubs. He put up a decent year. Then with the St. Louis, I guess he got traded to St. Louis. Did not do well. And now he's here with the expansion Raleigh Oaks. Peyton Williams, Osilvis Basabe, who I've heard of. Interesting, like, contact bat. Arteaga here is a decent shortstop to have on an expansion team. Ryan Cermak. They've got Judd Fabian. They've got Robert Hassel, who hasn't really panned out in this sim, but he is on this roster. So move things on to the pitching for them. Bryce Miller, former Mariner here. He is in their rotation. Kyle Wright, former Brave, I believe. Isn't that correct? Yes, former first-round pick of the Braves. Drew Rom, Griffin Canning, former Angel. Orion Kirkring is their closer. So, not the worst teams, but they're definitely not going to be great. You look here, Raleigh has this type of outlook. And then if we go to Montreal, they're a little bit better, but still not the best teams. So, they're not as bad as they would be if I kept it at 25 for the protect list, but they're not good either. All right, so now we're here at the transactions log, and we're just going to run through everything we did here in this offseason real quickly, as quick as can be, I should say. So, start of the offseason, our bench coach and our trainer retires. Rick Jamieson was our trainer since season 1. We had to replace him. We executed the option on Brandon Woodruff and Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga was a player option, so was Woodruff. They both accepted their player options. Then we made a couple minor trades here. Samuel Zavala had no more options, so we sent him to... did we even trade him to Cincinnati? Yeah, we did. We traded him to Cincinnati along with just some throw-in guy to make the trade work in return for some, okay reliever guy who's going to be in AAA for us. He's just, a total, throw-in sort of guy. Just to get a guy with options, because Zavala wasn't really on this team anymore. That trade with the White Sox, the Cerda, Zavala, Melendez, and Hackenberg trade with Joe Adell, just did not work out for us. So we moved on from Zavala. He had no more options. We also traded Jordan Groshans and another throw-in guy to the Mariners for Nate Snead, another interesting relief outlook player, another Milwaukee guy. I feel like we have a ton of guys from Milwaukee. A ton of guys from Wisconsin, overall, I should say. Throws hard, has a decent fastball slider mix, 60 potential stuff, and he also has plenty of options. He's in AAA for us. Then we also made another trade. We sent Willier Abreu, who also had no options and had no more real outlook on this team. And then we traded him to Atlanta. They non-tendered him once they got to the free agent signings, and we got Juan Carlos Lara here, who is in AAA for us. Another controllable multiple options reliever we have. And then Connor Kane as well, who ended up being taken in the Rule 5 by Detroit. So, whatever. It was just kind of a minor deal to get him off the team. We also claimed Leandro Arias here off waivers from the Yankees. Interesting, super utility guy. Not too great anywhere defensively, but he does have an interesting enough bat, as well as he can play enough positions where he's and he's a switch hitter, where he's an interesting utility guy. Got some decent base running ability too. When we claimed him, he was like 24 years and like 190 or like 200 days. So I felt like that counted as the 25-year mark that I like to talk about. And plus, the Yankees, they just weren't really using him. He's had like some up and down years in the minors, I would say. He's had some really good years, honestly. And then he had 2029 was not great in Double A, but was good in Triple A for some reason. But yeah, we claimed him. He is now on our major league roster, at least to start this season, which we will get into in a little bit. But moving on with the offseason, we signed this guy to be our team trainer, balance trainer. I just felt like there was way too much blue on this page to turn down. Fatigue recovery being poor is not the greatest, but that's fine. He's got so much outstanding and legendary and excellent on here that he's not the best at preventing leg injuries, but it's not red. The rest of this blue outshines this yellow here, I feel like, especially the fact that he has so much blue in preventing arm and rehabbing arm. That is good to see, I think. Yes, the next trade we made, Nelson Rada. I mentioned that we were thinking about trading him because he is now fragile, and he's had a couple disappointing, like he's been trending downward, I should say. He had the really good rookie year for us where we won the World Series in 2027. He was a big part of that team, obviously. Then the next season, still a productive player, but definitely lesser of a player. The OPS drops down to 706, and then the OPS drops down even more. He gets hurt. Now he's fragile. If you take a look at his injury history here, he's just had a bunch of like nagging injuries, even going back to his times in the minor leagues. So Nelson Rada, we moved on from him along with just like some throw-in reliever to the Miami Marlins for Olimber Santa. Saint Nick here. He is a pitcher who obviously is a bit of a wild thing here with the 40 control, but this stuff movement and 3-pitch mix here is quite insane. And as you can see, he has put up back-to-back seasons of really solid play in the Miami bullpen, or the Miami rotation. He had been a reliever for 3 years before that and just wasn't really that great. He had a decent year in 2027, I should say, but not the best. And then he moves to the rotation, and he's just been a demon. And he's only just about to turn 27. He is in arbitration. He's a bit expensive, and we might possibly look at extending him long term. We'll have to look into that eventually. But for right now, he is just on a $6 million deal through arbitration. And he's going to play a key role in our rotation this season, as which we get into a little bit here. So yeah, also I should mention with Nelson Rada, I spent a ton of time trying to trade him and Kyron Paris. We ended up not trading Kyron Paris, which we will get into, but there was multiple guys that we were trying to look at here. The first one, of course, that's not going to pop up because it's like J.J, isn't it? Yes. J.J. Weatherholt was somebody I was looking to trade Nelson Rada for because I shopped him, and he was just like kind of a guy who came up in a multiplayer package deal. And J.J. Weatherholt's a guy who has kind of struggled here to start his career, kind of slow, like treading water, and then boom, exploded last year at the 3 WAR. They offered him to me in a deal with like a couple decent like prospects that they had, like a couple. I think there was like a decent guy who I could think could start and be a multi-inning reliever type guy, and then there was another guy that they added in like that, and I was like, okay, but they also had Joey Bart in the deal, so I was kind of messing with it, trying to finagle it, get who I wanted, and then a couple days go by, and all of a sudden their interest in Rada for Weatherholt completely went away. And we were not able to get him no matter what I did. They just had no interest in him whatsoever. Obviously, Weatherholt here doesn't really have too much of a positional home. He's sort of like Arias, where he can play all over the place, but he doesn't play anywhere like elite. Just a bunch of like not great in the infield, not great in the outfield. But I thought this bat was going to be much better than Rada. So that was why I was interested in him. And he's a little bit older, but still, I thought he would be an interesting pickup, but we were unfortunately not able to get him. Then we also had a thing we were looking at with that is the wrong guy. Wasn't Turley who I'm thinking of? No, Gavin Turley's not who I'm thinking of. He was on Cleveland. Who am I thinking of here? Dean Curley, not Turley. Why is it on OSA? This guy here with the 60 power, it might have even been 65 in the offseason. It was. So he's actually gone down since I've looked at trading him. It was 65 in the offseason. So this guy, you can see back-to-back productive seasons as like a power bat in their lineup. And the plan was I was looking at him. He's got decent range and arm in the outfield. And the plan was basically to trade for this guy. Or I think I had already made the Rada trade. And so we needed like an outfielder. And I thought this guy could be like a power hitting, middle of the order bat outfielder. And then we were going to trade Paris for this guy. And that would open up shortstop because Paris, I felt like, has been a bit underwhelming. And Dean Curley here, I thought could slot into like right field for us, be a good power bat. Because, like I said, he's put up back-to-back seasons like this, and they offered us him and Joey Cantillo, who is not in their rotation. See it in AAA. Did they get rid of Joey Cantillo? I guess they got rid of him. But anyways, you get the idea. They offered me him and Joey Cantillo. I don't know why I'm back arrowing like this. Like, I can just go to the guy's page through that. But, and of course, I forgot that I got to his page by clicking on this. Dean Curley here. So you get the point. They were offering him, Cantillo, and then it once again, it was like I tried to get one more guy out of them, and, you know, like 3 days go by, and all of a sudden their interest was gone, and I couldn't even get Paris for Curley straight up, and they kind of budget fucked themselves with their arbitration and stuff to where I would have had to basically give them the money to cover Paris's salary and only take on just Dean Curley. And I felt like that wasn't really what I was looking to do. Like, I wanted him and Cantillo because that was what they offered me. And once it was like, oh, the budget issue was a thing for them, I didn't want to pay Paris's salary and send them Paris just in return for just this guy. So we moved on from that. The plan was going to be to open up that, and then Dansby Swanson was in free agency, and we were going to sign him to be like our one-year shortstop while we have a guy who's going to come up and be our shortstop next year. But we ended up not doing that. So Dean Curley was not a member of our team here. We ended up keeping Kyron Paris, as I should go back to the transactions log. What was I in? December here? Yes, so we did that. We also signed this guy in the offseason. Fragile, but the Marlins didn't want this guy. They apparently non-tendered him or something. He was in free agency available. I thought the high leader work ethic, the really good defensive outfield, plus all this green here, and all this green and light blue here, felt like he was a decent guy. He's a short side platoon for us guy. Short side platoon guy for us this season. Hopefully going to be a little bit of a lefty feaster here for us. But he's starting the year on the roster on a cheap $1 million contract. So we move things on into January. We also picked up Dylan Carlson on a 2-year deal, $7 million for each year. The second year is a player option, or a team option rather. Switch hitting, corner outfielder. Once again, 65 range, 70 air. You would think he would be able to play a little bit of center field. We signed him to be a corner outfielder because if you look here, his career fielding stats, teams have just been like trying to shove this guy in center field forever. Like, starting off in 2024, St. Louis had him in center. Wasn't great. He was good in right, though. Then he was good in right in 2025, but they poofed up. Then Cincinnati put him in center in 2026. Awful. Cleveland put him in center. Awful. The Mets put him in center. Awful. Then he was back in St. Louis, apparently. Left field, he was good. Center field, not good. And then last year he was in Houston in center field, not good defensively, but he still managed to put up decent offensive numbers here. You can see he's been like a consistently slightly above league average bat, and that's basically what we're expecting from him, is to be like a decent not middle of the order, but like 6-7 type hitter and play some really good corner outfield defense for us while being a serviceable bat against righties and lefties. I was mainly looking for a righty outfield bat, and I felt like since he was better against lefties, that he would basically serve as that. He plays against both, but I felt like we needed a guy who can hit more against lefties as a right-handed bat, and he also serves that role. So he's on our team here. We also brought in a couple different guys as like some depth pieces like Zach Jackson here. And we brought back Alan Serta, he's in AAA right now, or he's passing through waivers. I also want to mention this fella right here, Amari Greenidge. You can see here he was the third round pick for San Diego in 2027. This guy came up with, I was basically, why I was looking to trade Paris was because I feel like his bat hasn't been good enough to overlook the fact that he hasn't been like an elite defender. You know, if you put up with a bad bat, you want the guy to be like a double-digit ZR type shortstop. And Greenidge here in AAA, obviously, hasn't gotten to the big leagues yet, but he's the 50 overall, 50 potential. He's got a decent enough bat to where like he might give you a decent amount of home runs. He hit 43 in AAA last year. Now, given this is in El Paso in the Pacific Coast League, so you can see 43 home runs, 26 doubles is only a 119 WRC plus, but he did have some really good years in A-ball too. So I felt like this guy was going to be giving us a decent enough bat. Plus, look at all this dark blue here at shortstop. The 80 turn double play, high work ethic, intelligence. I thought this guy was going to be perfect for us, and I just could not get them to budge on him. No matter what I offered them, they were just like, fuck you, buddy. We ain't giving this guy up, even though we're not playing him. We're stashing him in AAA at age 24, and we're still not giving it to him. Still not giving you him. So that was unfortunate, but this guy is on my keep an eye list. If he ever becomes available, this is somebody we might want to move on because I really like this guy. It should be obvious why I like this guy. Now, let's take a look at what our team is looking like here heading into 2030. First things first, we should be taking a look at the old injured list here. Also, I know that we have too many guys in AA. I need to clear that, and AAA. We need to clear this. I will be getting into that. I just haven't gotten into it quite yet. But first things first, taking at the injured list. Kodai Senga, unfortunately, got hurt in spring training. He's going to need surgery to remove bone chips out of his elbow at age 37. 4-month recovery. This is the last year of his deal with us. He's going to miss it. Not great. Definitely cuts into our pitching rotation here, which we will get into a little bit. But we do have the possibility of Spencer Strider coming back in 2 weeks. And so far, he hasn't gotten to wrecked. This might change once he comes off the injury. But we do have the trainer who's like outstanding at rehabbing arm and whatnot. So maybe that'll help. But the plan is for Spencer Strider to move into the rotation, obviously, after he probably spends a good chunk of that rehab assignment in AAA. I might even put him in AA as a part of the rehab assignment, just so he doesn't get, like, thrown to the wolves as an extreme fly ball guy in AAA in the Pacific Coast League. But, yeah, so once he goes through his rehab assignment, he will be on the big league roster here for us, and hopefully he's able to channel some of his previous success. He hasn't pitched since 2027, and we're looking to get him back in the mix here in Anaheim. So he is there. Kyron Paris is out for 1 day. He got hurt at the end of spring training, so he's out for 1 day here, and he will be back. So once we go over the lineups here, keep in mind that the reason why Bob Moore is playing shortstop is because he's the best we have available to play shortstop right now. And it's because Kyron Paris is hurt. So Bob Moore is playing shortstop right now, but here's the lineups. Against righties, it's Soto, Ohapi, Neto, Shanuel, Lombard, Broyhill in center, Carlson in right, Josh Johnson in left, and then Bob Moore at short. And then against lefties, it's very similar, but it's Soto, Ohapi, Neto, Shanuel, Lombard, then Carlson, Gutierrez in left, Broyhill, and then Bob Moore. If we take a look at the benches here, Dave Peter has made the team as our backup catcher. He was our 6th-round pick in 2027 out of Texas A&M. Switch hitting catcher, 70 catcher framing, a bunch of like teal here as well. Had a really good year in AA. Not great, but he wasn't awful in AAA. And he's just the best backup catcher available that we have, so he is on the roster here. We also have Arias, like I mentioned, he is the backup infielder right now until Paris comes back. Once Paris comes back, Arias will move down to AAA because he has options. He will move down to AAA. Bob Moore will go back into the backup infielder role, and Kyron Paris will be the starter like usual. And Kyron Paris did actually improve a bit in the lab, which we will get into here in a few minutes. Randy DeJesus, the showman, makes the roster once again. He actually has no more options, partly why he made it over some other guys, but he also had an improvement in the development lab. We take a look here. Outstandingly completed training to improve his defense in left field. So suddenly, not a liability in left. He's got the good stealing ability. He's got the 65 power. Randy DeJesus, we love him, folks. He's part of the lore here in Anaheim. And he is once again a part of our roster here as a backup corner outfielder and backup first baseman. Like I said, Gutierrez and Johnson swap in left and center, or swap in left field depending on who is pitching. Gutierrez, that's what he looks like we said, and then Johnson has this profile, which I think could play quite well as a cold weather University at Buffalo from Detroit guy. We love guys like that. You guys all know that. I'm a big cold weather baseball guy. We're rooting for UConn here in the regionals, folks, among other teams as well. But Hook C, baby. Love the Hook C. And then we got, like I said, Carlson Soto. And then, yeah, that's the bench. So we move things on to the pitching. The rotation, not looking the best it has. We might have to do some patchwork, like opener type stuff this season to try to really get the best out of our rotation, do some Rays type shit. Right now, Zach Gallen is starter number 2 because I foolishly did not realize he was pitching at the end of spring training. So he is going to be ready for tomorrow, but right now he's a number 2. And Olimber Santa. I'm just going to keep calling him Santa because it's fun. He's Santa. He is our opening day starter. We went over him. He's a big part of our team this season. And if you're wondering, I am overriding his thing, so he's not going to pitch around, and we're trying to really limit his ability to mess things up with his control, because we don't want this to fuck things up too badly. Whereas, like, opposed with a guy like Gallen, we have him pitching around quite more than a guy with no control. Then we have Sawyer Gibson Long back. Patrick Forbes is the number 4, still being limited to 18 batters faced, mainly because he hasn't quite developed this changeup enough for me to reliably think he can go like deep into games. And then Woodruff, unfortunately, is going to be our 5th starter this year. The plan was for him to be a rotation or a bullpen guy, since Senga was going to be in the rotation, but Woodruff is going to be like a 5th innings eater type for us, and hopefully channel some of that old man energy here for us. And then in the bullpen, we've got 3 stoppers this year. Our man Lopez, Ben Joyce, and Andrew Healy, who was very good for us last season. I feel like we might move him to be like setup / stopper. Honestly, I might even do that right now. No, we'll leave it the way it is. And we might change it to be where he's setup / stopper. But for now, we have 3 stoppers. He's 7th in close game. These 2 are 8th in close game. And then the rest of the bullpen is we've got Urania, who had a good year in the rotation in AAA last year. At age 26, he's going to get some real run here in the big league bullpen. He also is out of options, so that was why we kind of went with him over somebody else. LeBaron Johnson, who was a part of that Royals trade last year and was good for us down the stretch. He is a member of he was an opener, that's why he was starting games last year. He is a member of our bullpen here as a flamethrower type guy. Lucas Ursek. He is disruptive, unfortunately, but he is the extreme ground ball. He throws hard. Once again, control issues is why he's a reliever, but there's a lot of like teal on this page for me to like him. He's been a serviceable reliever in the past. Last year with Seattle, the past 2 years with Seattle. You can see here he won the 2028 World Series with them. I think he's an interesting player, so he is going to be on our team here. He also has no options, so he is a player who, if we get rid of him, we have to DFA him. And hope he accepts an assignment, which he might not. I'm not sure the exact years on when a guy is going to decline assignments or not. And then we also have Cole Palpum, who we got in the Detroit trade last year, which was that was the Detmers trade where we got Sawyer Gibson Long and Gavin Turley, who is in AAA for us to start the season. As like the immediate, if we need a center fielder, he comes up and plays. We've got some decent depth on this team when it comes to hitters. I feel like we got a lot of depth in the bullpen too, but we don't really have too many great starter options right now. that might be our downfall. Like I said, we might have to really raise it up here in the rotation, which I'm not opposed to doing. But I do feel like we have a good team overall, especially with the bats. I feel like we should be competing for a playoff spot last year. And I mean, last year we should have. All we needed was just not that awful April, and things would have went much differently, and we would have been in the playoffs. And that is our goal for this year, is to make the playoffs. All right, so here we are taking a look at all of the different programs we ran this offseason. We were able to run quite a few because we had some of the longer ones, and then we were able to get a bunch of defense ones in too. Nolan Shanuel, we did improve his defense at first base. That's good to see. You know, it's not the greatest, but he does have the 55 first base now. He's a first baseman. He's not a DH for us anymore, so we need him to be able to play first base at least decently well. And hopefully he can do that for us this season. Amari Collar, unfortunately, did not improve his control. Sadid Matthews did improve his current power, so that is good to see. He's starting the year in AAA for us after a really good year in AA last year. We also had Juan Padilla, had a outstanding success at improving his power. So Juan Padilla, he's looking like he could be a dude for us. And he can play some really solid defense too. This bat, this defense, I would say he might be on. I would say it's probably highly likely he's on the big league roster at some point this season. He's just too good to hold down. And with this power development that he picked up in the lab, things could be looking really, really good for him. And then, like I said, he can play a really solid third base for you, even second base probably. But he's more of like a third baseman, corner outfield type in my mind. And if he comes up, he's probably going to be a guy who plays corner outfield for us. But we will obviously have to see how things go whenever it is available. And we wanted to get that extra versatility. Apparently, he can even play a 60-grade shortstop. So who knows what can happen with him. But he does have the super versatility if we want to squeeze him in and play him at some point this season. But he's starting in Salt Lake. Jackson Peavy, unfortunately, did not improve in the lab, but he did improve, I believe, just through straight development. Yes, he did get a boost at the end of last year, and then he also got a boost here in the offseason, and his velo ticked up. So Jackson Peavy suddenly looking like he might be a decent relief option for us. Just out of nowhere, won the California League MVP, or the Cy Young, and the most outstanding pitcher in the California League last year, and now he's looking like he could be a dude for us. Chris Sands, unfortunately, did not improve his control, but he still looks decent enough if he can tap into a lot of this stuff. Unfortunately, his stamina did drop down to 35 after his recovery from his torn flexor tendon, which I believe is the same thing that happened to Woodruff when he first came back from his torn flexor tendon. And if you look at his scouting here, his stamina dropped, his stuff dropped. It's not looking great, but he still looks like he could be a decent player for us. And he's going to start the year in AA, try to, dominate down there and get these ratings up a bit more. George Lombard, unfortunately, did not improve his power. Eric Rose did not increase his velocity. Randy DeJesus did have the outstanding improvement in left field, like I mentioned. He has a 65 left field now. He has up to 55 error in range and 60 with the arm. So he's suddenly a viable left and right fielder for us. And then also he plays a little bit of first base as well with the 35 ability there. Juan Soto, we tried to improve his defense because he's just really bad. Unfortunately, there were no notable changes. But we would have liked to get this to be a little bit playable to where he's not just strictly a DH, but he's a DH at this point, let's be honest. It ain't happening. He's a DH. We're fine with that. We wouldn't have signed him if we weren't fine with that. And then Juan Padilla, we did try to learn new position with him. He did not have any improvement. Same with Morabel here, who is an interesting depth infielder piece we have. Luis Luna, though, did improve his second base defense. So that is good to see. Everything improved by 5-ish. So yeah, Luis Luna, interesting player for us in AA. He had a really good year in the California League last year. Another Wisconsin guy we have in the system. And then we also had Morphin, who I forgot to mention. He came over in the Miami trade in the Santa trade. So we traded Nelson Rada and this throw-in prospect for Santa, and we also got Gianandrea Morfin, who is this Venezuelan Italian guy. Interesting bat profile, switch hitter. You can see here not really any decrease in righty or lefty, so pretty solid against both. He's got 60 range, can play a real solid second and third, 55 grade short for you too. Not really a corner outfielder. I guess he can. He could be a little bit of a corner outfielder, but he's a solid infielder. He's in Double A to start the year after he was in A ball last year, tearing things up. But he is definitely closer to the big leagues than he is to A ball. So he was an interesting guy we picked up, and he had the outstanding defense improvement at shortstop even. I didn't even do that. I'm pretty sure I just tried to improve his third base, and it just improved his shortstop for whatever reason. And then Arias, we tried to improve his second base. That was no improvement. But then Kyron Paris was successful, and he improved all these things at shortstop. No real change here, but this could be like, he went to like 67. He went to 68, and he wasn't quite 70 on the, on the 20 to 80 scale, not in increments of 5. So, he improved. Hopefully that shows up this season because we need him. We need him to be better than like his career high of putting up like a 3 and like a 2 ZR for us. We want that to be closer to double digits, but I'll take like a 5. I'll take like a 6. Just give me something. Give me something, Kyron. Because your bat's not good enough for you to be doing this. Obviously, he does have the high leader and he has the really good stolen base profile, but he's a part of the team here. We did not trade him. And like I said, starting the year on the IL, but he is going to be on the team here literally after 1 day of the season. So we'll see how things go here in 2030. Hopefully they're quite good. And when we pick things back up, we will probably be at the June 1st for the draft and the recap of what has happened so far. Oh, wait. I almost forgot for the preseason predictions here. The Yankees are projected to win. Oh, I also need to go over the playoff format here. So the Yankees are projected to win the American League Metro Division, with the Red Sox, Phillies, Orioles, and Mets all winning 80 games. And then you have the Dodgers are projected to win the Pacific Division, with Mariners, us, and the Giants all projected to win 80 games. Some of the top hitters here, we do have Juan Soto listed. No respect for Shanuel and Ohapi. No respect for any of our pitchers. And then the National League, the Great Lakes Division. Bunch of 80-game winners all jumbled here between the Blue Jays, Cubs, Reds, Tigers, Brewers, and White Sox. And then you have, in the National League Southern Division, 2 real top-heavy teams here. Really good Royals team, and then a bunch of mediocreness. But those are the projections. And let's just get into the... where is it? Rules... Options. Yes. So we are breaking ties with tiebreaker games. That is good. I believe we're running the same playoff system that Spore is using in his series, where we have each division winner gets the first round bye in the Metro, Pacific, Southern, and Great Lakes. So they all get the first round bye. And then there are 4 wild cards in each league. It's reseeded each round. So the 1 seed and the 2 seed in each division get byes. The rest of the teams all play each other, and it reseeds each round, and it's best of 5 first round, best of 7, best of 7, best of 7. So there's no more best of 3 nonsense. I do like the wild card being shorter because, it still gives you that like little bit of a gimmick. You got to play for the 7 rounds, or you got to play for the 7-game divisional round if you want to move into that and win the division and just go straight to that. But, the wild card best of 5 can still give you some variations in outcomes, but it's not quite as gimmicky as a 3-game series is. So we get 5, 7, 7, 7, and that is the playoffs there. And then we have the break ties of tiebreaker games instead of just being the tiebreaker in the standings, because MLB got rid of that. We rechecked that. So that is the playoff format. And now We will see you next time.